So our third and final speaker needs very little introduction, to be honest. But like any other industry, crypto has had its fair share of scams and frauds. To build trust in a new technology, it's important that we acknowledge the bad as well as the good. And no one does that better in a more engaging way than Erica Stanford. Her book, The Crypto Wars, will skillfully tell the stories of fake deaths, missing billions, and industry disruption. She's also the founder and CEO of the CryptoUK Club and is the Fintech specialist at CMS. I'm delighted to introduce you to Erica Stanford.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm not going to talk about serious and important things like Nick and Iona and Jess, but Hitmen and scams and other things. So sort of vague intro. I heard about crypto. I used to travel around Latin America when I was a young sort of backpacking student, and I was sort of a tiny little skinny blonde 17-year-old going off-piste totally by myself, and got mugged so many times at every credit card and traveller's check, and everything I'd ever sort of left with that resembled a way to pay for anything got mugged. So I ended up relying quite often on Western Union, which was the only way to get money if you didn't have any sort of cards or anything left, and you sort of walked to the local Western Union branch and call my loving dad who was in the UK, going basically, Dad, I've been mugged again, can you send me some money? And he did. He'd drive into the local Western Union in England and send me cash, and 3 days later I'd go back to the Western Union branch and pick up the cash that he'd sent to me, minus the 14% commission that they charged, which stings a bit, and walk off with cash. And there's a few issues with Western Union and all remittance companies. They take often days to send you the money because, of course, they profit from the interim, the 14% charge, and then you're left with cash, which when you've been mugged as often as I have, backpacking solo isn't really ideal. So I heard about crypto, and there's a lot of benefits to crypto. So I got interested in crypto for the micropayments and for the money transfer purposes, but at the time in the UK there was no community. I went to all of the events I could, and it was either super dry and technical aimed at coders, which I'm demonstrably not, or it was sales pitches for scams where you literally had people paying money to go and promote a scam, and not ideal. So I started my own as a hissy fit. I'd been to a Christmas curry networking event, which was the only endurable networking event I'd ever been to, and thought, okay, we'll get people together, food and drink, curry is good, people like curry, crypto curry, it sounds good. And invited people that looked interesting on LinkedIn that at the time were running little crypto startups, and people came and spent the whole afternoon and evening and said it was the best event they'd been to, and that sort of grew into the biggest community in the UK before lockdown. And happily enough, the people that were running the little startups then are now running kind of big companies. So the boss of one of them is one of the people that came early again. So yeah, boss of Greengage was one of the early people, but that's been really cool. Got to meet a lot of the people running the cool companies. And then before lockdown, someone sent me a podcast called The Missing Crypto Queen. And they were like, Erica, you know stuff about crypto. You'd be interested to hear this. So I listened to it. And it's about this massive, big, multi-billion-dollar Ponzi scheme called OneCoin, which, because I was actually in the crypto space, I'd never heard about. So I listened to this podcast. It's like, wow, this is amazing. Did what any logical person would do and sent the guy who created it a fangirl email, going basically like, hi, Jamie, I've listened to your podcast. I run something called the CryptoUK Club. Would you come and speak at it? Thinking he's never going to reply and, nervous to press send. But he replied and was like, I've heard about it. I'd love to. So Jamie Bartlett, the guy who did all of this, like basically BBC-funded research into the OneCoin Ponzi scheme, and it's got a founder that disappeared in 2017 and has been missing ever since, came and spoke to us at sort of a room, bit like this, with food, Chatham House rules, and told us all the stuff that he couldn't share on a BBC podcast about the scam and who's was sleeping with who, and therefore who hired which secret securities agent to drill a hole into the room that they wanted to be sleeping with to spy on them because they were jealous about them not leaving their wife, and that's how they found out that they were wanted by the FBI, and all of the juicy dirt about the sort of the legals behind this Ponzi scheme. And from that event, we had a room full of people that had been in crypto since super early on. I had all these guys, because it was all men, coming up to me and telling me their stories of seeing early crypto scams or trying to denounce them or trying to go to authorities. And, you know, they had death threats. They had some really scary stuff came up. One guy, the government where he lives has a long list of names that if any of those people try and enter the country, he'll get extra security because his life is deemed to be in so much danger for basically whistleblowing on one of the early crypto scams. So really interesting. And then these people brought me into all of these forums and chat rooms, either run by scammers or run by people supporting these scams. I'm still in a lot of them. They're all over Facebook, all over all social media groups. There's people scamming each other left, right, and center. And you just sit there watching this, and it's just utterly bizarre. So I started going down this rabbit hole of sitting in these forums all over every social media platform, watching people scam each other out of scam cryptocurrencies. It's so insane you wouldn't think it's true, except you're just watching it happen there. And then a publisher asked me to write a book about crypto scams, and I thought, well, it's lockdown. How long can that take? And surely that can't be that hard, and it really does take that long, and it really is that hard. But anyhow, I agreed to do that, and so in short, made friends with a lot of law enforcement and people running crypto analytics companies, and they now show me some cool stuff. So if we can go to the next slide, thank you. No, that's boring. So there's some statistics there, but I think to go straight into the fun stuff, you all hear the news about there being lots of scams, and yes, there's lots of scams that happen. I've made friends with certain parties within law enforcement who've taken me to their HQs and showed me some of the stuff that they're going on. So the most interesting thing I've done this year, because we're just going to go straight to Hitmen because it's cool, you go onto the dark web. So I've never been alone on the dark web, mostly because I've become friends with the people who kind of watch a lot of it from a law enforcement perspective, and they've scared the bejesus out of me into doing it alone. But they sit me around in their HQ and show me police style what they're monitoring and what they're doing and what happens, and taking me all around it. And it's kind of cool. And you've got lots of drugs, and every type of drug and every type of gun and every type of fake ID and fake bank card, and go on the assumption that all of your details, all of your addresses, all of your email addresses, all of your bank details will be on the dark web. That's the case for like 80% of people. There's a lot of our data on there. It's pretty scary. And then you've got the dark side of the dark web, where you've got organs and porn that you don't want to be seeing, and hitmen for hire sites. And there's lots of these hitmen for hire sites. And I was like, whoa, what's that about? And it was like, oh, no, don't worry, that's just a scam. And so I'm like, hey, Mr. Police person, how do you know this is all scam? So he was like, have a look. So I've put into my iPhone more times than is probably ideal for a legal perspective, hire a hitman to see the results. Happy if any of you have internet and are willing to check it on your search results. So I've done it often enough. I'll show you on my phone. So all over the dark web, you've got all of these websites that are basically called something like hire a hit killer or hire a hitman or best hitman site or whatever. And I was like, there's no way this is in Google. So I put it into my iPhone in Google, and yep, like literally all over Google, all over the mainstream internet, you've got tons and tons and tons of these sites, like for pages and pages and pages, called imaginative things like hire a hitman or hireakiller.io or best hitman for hire site or whatever. And you've got all of these sites saying, we've got the best hitman here. We're real Albanian mafia. You can pay extra to make it look like an accident, or you can pay extra to have, they have price lists of how much it costs to have a limb removed, or to make it look like a car crash, or to have them tortured, or only to have them tortured but not have them killed, or extra to make it look like an accident. And they have a chat interface. So it's all very user-friendly. If you want your hitman, you can message them and you can chat with them and you can say, this is what I want, and they reply, this is how much Bitcoin you send. And they have a very interactive user face, and they're like, well, if you want to hire a hitman, we need the information about who you want killed and what you want doing to them. So they get people to send in their names of who they want killed, and their schedules and their details and where they work and their car reg plate and all of the details any good hitman would need. Like on a Wednesday evening, they leave work at this address and go home to that address, and they'll be alone at home at that time, and this is what they look like and all of that. So you need all of the information to do a good clean hit, and you send the Bitcoin, and they have tutorials of how to buy Bitcoin and how to send Bitcoin to pay for your hitman and all of the process. The only issue is for people trying to hire hitmen is you're not going to get a hitman. There's been no one in the West ever killed by a hitman for hire site on the dark web or on the main web. Apparently, if you want a hitman, there's a certain pub in Tottenham in London run by Albanian mafia where if you know someone that can get you in, you can actually pay cash for a hitman. But all of these sites are either scams, where the person running the site thinks, well, if someone's dumb enough to pay Bitcoin, leaving a trail of money and send this electronic trail of all of the information, there's not much they can do when they don't get their hitman service. You can't go to the police and go, hey, I paid Bitcoin to someone on the dark web to kill someone, and I didn't get my service. Can I get my money back? You can't do anything. So they're either downright scams, or they're quite profitable sites where the site will still take the Bitcoin, but then send the information to law enforcement to go, oh, by the way, we've got all of this intel, and it's a very clear intel. And then law enforcement will go to the address of the person and say, hey, there's someone got a hit out on you, and they can usually work out exactly who the person is because there's only one person with all the information. And so they can arrest that person. That happens relatively frequently. Or they're honey traps run by law enforcement, and a lot of them are. So you're just giving all of your details, your IP, your wallet address, all of the details, you're just giving straight to law enforcement so that they can arrest any would-be murderers much quicker. So I find that super, super interesting. So there's been 2 people have been killed who've been victims on these hitmen for hire sites. One of them, it was the FBI in America that kind of cocked up. They went to the address, so they had all these details. It was a woman, and this person wanted to kill, so they went to the address. But the husband was there, and first lesson surely should be you go to the victim alone, not when anyone else is there. So they said to the victim in front of the husband, hey, someone's got a hit out on you, and they've got all of this information about you, and they've paid quite a lot of money in Bitcoin to have you killed. Do you know who it could be? And she's like, no, I don't know. And then when they left, the husband was like, damn, and just killed her. And there's been true cases like that. But other than that, there's been no actual hitman cases. So I just find that super interesting. So I guess going out of that, there's a lot of talk about crypto is all used for paying for drugs, or it's all used to evade sanctions, or it's all used for money laundering. Really, really, no. Do not commit crime using crypto. It's the most traceable asset. Anyone in law enforcement, any forensic expert will say they're grateful when they've got a crime that's crypto, because it's just so much easier to trace it any other asset. Even Monero, which is deemed to be the most privacy-focused crypto analytics can now track 65% of transactions, and that's what they will admit to. So in reality, it's probably going to be more than that. And crypto is so sort of easily traceable that ransom hacks have gone off and become a huge business, mostly for North Korea. And if you pay a ransom in Bitcoin, they want 20% more because of the risk to the hacker of cashing out the Bitcoin. It's just too hard to cash out. It's too hard to cash out illegal crypto, and it is too traceable. So yeah, a bit of fun on that. Don't hire hitmen with Bitcoin. Don't commit crime using crypto because it's just so totally traceable. So, I mean, here's just some stats for you on the scams. There's lots of scams. We've mentioned some of the Ponzi schemes. There's some rug pulls where founders create a site or a product and often have it running for years before basically going, thank you very much, I'm going to disappear with all of your money. Happens quite frequently. Lots of hacks. Theft, ransomware is massive. It's hugely concentrated out of Russia. You've now got on the dark web lots of ransomware as a service packages. So you can go on the dark web. You don't even have to be skilled or clever now to do this. You just go on the dark web and you can buy your ransomware as a service package or hack this crypto thing package. And some of them are as cheap as $7 for the courses on how to do this. And they have chat services. You can message with the people going, I've done this hack, what do I do now? And so the pretty good user experience. So you can literally buy these packages on the dark web for not much money, buy the email addresses to... Is
there Trustpilot ratings for them?
They actually do have ratings. So not Trustpilot, but yeah, no, on the dark web, they have total rating systems. So... so people buy, literally write, oh, yeah, I bought these drugs, they arrived quickly, very good quality, A++++. So yeah, you get all of the ratings. The thing is, it doesn't really take much effort, so if they get bad rating, they could just create a new site. None of the hitmen have ratings, so I guess you can't really write, good hitman, killed. But they have fake ratings, so there's lots of videos where, demonstrably people running at the sites have, what they do is basically if people apply and people genuinely do apply to be a hitman on these sites, there's a job spec and they send in their applications, and then for anyone that applies to be a hitman, they're like, well, we have to see that you're serious and we have to see that you're skilled. So here's this address. We want you to blow up this car and send us a video of this, or send us a video of blah, 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 blah. And then the people, as part of the job application, send in the video of this, and that's what they use as the testimonials of showing how scary they are. So it's a pretty clever system. But can we go to the next slide? I think that's, and just to the next, just to make it fun. So, North Korea, got to have some North Korean chat in after Hitmen. Has anyone read a book called The Lazarus Heist or heard about the podcast at all? Totally recommend it. So it's about North Korean hackers. So I did the same with Jeff, who wrote The Lazarus Heist, as I did with Jamie, but we were at the same event, so I went up to him as a fangirl and we became mates. So I've had this guy who's spent years and years and years investigating North Korea hacks and hackers and the Lazarus group and all of this. We've become good mates, so I get some good scoops of what's happening. And North Korea have the best hackers in the world. So a large proportion of crypto hacks are from North Koreans, and to the tune that they've stolen billions of dollars worth, and not all of the hacks that are publicly attributed to them, a lot of those are thought to be North Korea. So North Korea have a clever system. They still need money. They need money to fund their regime. They need money to build nuclear weapons, and lots of sanctions prevent that. So stealing crypto is a good way to fund a regime. So North Korea have a really good little setup. They've got schools, and if any kid shows exceptional promise in school, they take them out of school and put them into a special school. And then the best kids, the smartest kids that are really good at maths, get taken out of special school and get basically sent to a genius camp, where they get taught computer science, where computer science is actually hacking, and they get sent around the world with fake passports. And are based literally around the world, hacking away with the best software money can buy and the best hackers that the world has ever seen. So North Korea are behind the vast majority of hacks in some capacity. Stolen, at least $1 billion is known, a lot more. And they used to be able to launder quite a bit of that through mixers, but now various sanctions have made that harder to hide crypto through mixers. So one of the tricks that they now have to do is you've still got casinos where you can send in crypto and then gamble and get out cash. So you've got whole armies of North Koreans posing as Chinese or other nationals, with their fake passports, going to casinos around the world and basically gambling like a job. You get there in the morning and you gamble all day. And the whole point isn't to make money, but there's certain types of gambling where you can basically, if you've got a few people, break out pretty much even. You know, one bet's on black, one bet's on red. So one will win, so they leave with more or less the same amount of money as they started as a way of money laundering. So it's a very slow process, but you know that's how the regime is funded. So North Korea for you, and Russia. Everyone likes to hate on Russia at the moment, but there's a disproportionate amount of ransomware and crypto crime coming from Russia. A lot of the ransomware strains sold are Russian. And then in Moscow, you've got some pretty swanky high-rise towers, and they're kind of known as crypto crime HQ. So now the people that do either trade from China will come in, bags and bags and bags and bags of cash, physical cash. There's no ID checks, and you can swap that straight into crypto, or vice versa. Yep.
I was just going to say.
Are you going to be nice?
No, well, I'm going to be nice.
Okay.
I was just going to say that on on the consumer platform, which still does decent volume, 99% of the financial crime on our platform is fiat related. Less than 1% is crypto.
It's in all AML annual reports.
Yeah, so totally valid point. So about less than 1% of crypto transactions are related to crime. The percentage for fiat isn't known, but it's a lot higher. So just one of the statistics, you know, the media like to go, crypto is all about buying drugs and evading sanctions. So since the Russian invasion, just one example, so $5 million of crypto has got through to pro-Russian armies and groups since the invasion, compared to, I forgot the statistic, I don't know if I've got it maybe on the previous slide. Have I? Back to where I can't. Even with glasses, I can't see. Right, okay, there you go. So 8 billion in fiat has been sanctioned, i.e. Versus 5 million in crypto. So that's like 0.0086%, if I can read that, versus 200 million in donations in crypto that has been sent through to Ukraine. So to highlight Nick's point, yes, there is crime in crypto, but it's massively traceable, so it's pretty stupid to use that to commit crime because it's the most traceable asset, and it's minute compared to fiat, and that's even with all of the big Ponzi schemes taken into account. So
I was just thinking, I love the presentation. I was just thinking if you should probably mention Ross Ulbricht, because as you were talking, I realized this guy is in prison for life or running Silk Road, and you can do these things that he was promoting in, I don't know, minor percentages as of the overall platform activity. He's in jail for life, and yet today you can hire Hitmen, you can hire whatever you want, you can sell drugs, and no one is in jail. This guy who's 20-something.
Yeah, so I mean, my ethical stance is that making drugs illegal is awful. I mean, I don't take drugs, but the fact that they're illegal is why people die, because they're not tested, because they're unsafe. You've got all these cartels that basically destroy Latin America. There's every argument for legalizing drugs and none that I see rationally for making drugs illegal. So that's just a personal viewpoint, not affiliated to any employer of a law firm. But Ross was of the same, they're really nice. They let me kind of speak about what I want, so long as I don't put things on slides. Although they let me...
Stop. No.
So,
continue about Ross.
so the law enforcement really made an example out of him.
Exactly.
Like, massively made an example out of him. Was what he did ideal? No, because it wasn't just about sort of ideology. He did have a site that sold a load of illegal drugs that did kill a load of people because they were super dangerous. That sold a load of illegal guns. So, is it fair that he's in prison? Personally, yes. But they did make a super big example out of him. And he made some mistakes. He gave away bits of his identity. And some of the people that are sort of really doing the crime now, what they've learned from is they're not going to sit around in the UK or in America. And that's one of the factors in crypto. So you don't need a team, you don't need to be based here or in America or somewhere that's going to extradite you to an American prison. The people running the scams aren't going to be sat around in countries that will extradite them, and they're not going to be sat around in countries where law enforcement can even get to them. So there's certain countries where authorities either won't cooperate or will actively support them, like North Korea, for example. So it's about where you're based, and if you're based in North Korea,
No one can touch
what are you
it.
going to do?
Yeah. Do people in the room know of Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht? Yeah. It's an interesting story in light of everything that you just
Anecdotes,
Yeah. And there have been a few arrests, and one of the interesting things with the dark web. So it was a few years ago, and I think it was called Hamza. So law enforcement are pretty good. Like that, their problem is they're not
The Dutch one?
Yeah, the Dutch, and I think they worked with the Germans and Americans to get the site down. Law enforcement don't have enough resources, but when they choose to go after one, they've got all of the crypto analytics. So what their sort of tactic now is, same as with the Hitmen for hire sites, they run them. So they'll get into the dark websites, arrest some of the people that run the different chat communications, or arrest the admins, make them give over their logins. So they just take over the site and keep running it, usually for a month, which is all they get given legally to run it. And will run the site, keep chatting away to people, keep letting the sales go until they've got all of the data on everyone that's used it, and then they'll shut it down and be like, oh, and by the way, we've been running this for the last month, so we've got all of your data, and then they just go and arrest everyone they want to arrest. So that's been one of the main detriments to sort of the dark web industry, now that people don't trust using them as much, because 50-50 you're literally speaking with law enforcement or not.
I didn't know there was a month cap in terms of
Yeah,
how long
because
authorities
so
can
the
run
Hunter
illegal.
one was for a month, because I
Interesting.
guess the police can't legally justify,
Spending.
running a dark web drug market for.
Or yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have time for questions later in the
Also,
Q&A.
the key takeaway is don't use crypto.
Yeah, and another key takeaway, if you want to kill someone, just go over to Erica, because she has all the information. She knows everything.
Yeah, this wasn't being recorded, was it?
Okay.
It's not on the slide, so.
Alright, cool, yeah. So no affiliation with CMS. I love I'm not advocating killing people or Hitmen. But have lawyers if you need crypto lawyer stuff. So yeah.
Well done.